Hi, Richard Land here. Welcome to AEROPS. Today we're going to talk to a good friend of mine, Denice Stoner. I'm proud to say that Denice Stoner is one of our advisory board members at AEROPS. Denice has been associated with MUFON for 21 years in Florida as both chief investigator and the Florida State Director. She was also assistant director to the experiencer research team at MUFON, and she's currently on the support team for Opus. She's co-authored her first book called Alien Abduction Files in 2013 with Kathleen Martin, which includes the investigation of 6 intergenerational cases of ET conduct. Denice has an educational background in psychology, and she's a certified hypnotist specializing in forensic regressive hypnosis. Her involvement in the UFO field spans almost 40 years. Hi, Denice. It's good to see you again. We've known each other for a long time. I think I mentioned in your bio, you were one of the original people on the STAR team when we worked with Bass and Bigelow and on the AWSSAP program, and you were both field team investigator, and you were also part of the dispatch team, which was the group of people that looked at the databases as things were coming in every day and evaluated them and all that. So I think you've been around probably as long or longer than I have. So I think we do have some experience. But one of the things, is being the state director down in Florida, I'm hearing a lot of stuff about things that are really hopping down there. Can you just give me a quick overview on what's going on in Florida the last few weeks or last month or so?
Sure. We're having or experiencing some more of those drone type situations where they are actually zooming in over someone's home, and that person most of the time is an experiencer. And then we have helicopters coming and flying over or jets passing if it's close to a base. And then we have orbs that are obviously intelligent controlled. Some of them have little trails that they leave. They're zipping in and out and around the drones. So this is not just a one unit type situation. And the person that's watching is fearful. They feel like they may have been taken. They're not positive. They don't have the memory of it. However, there have been blue lights that come down through the house, sometimes through the roof, and these people have been burned.
Blue lights. Wait, is there any
Mhm.
particular area this is happening in or all over the state or what?
Several areas of the state, both East Coast, West Coast, South. Yeah.
And so you're getting a combination of drones that are intelligently controlled and also like helicopters and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah. And those orbs, the orbs that change shape, at times they look just like an orb, nothing else. And then they'll develop into a situation where there are flashing lights, blinking lights, and a little tail behind them.
Vapor,
And
like a trail, like a heat signature trail. Yeah.
correct. Yes, you got it.
And then you're saying that these blue lights actually penetrate through the house, into the house.
In a few instances, yes, they have right through the roof, and they're in a column, a very narrow column. And this is being kept kind of under the radar. You kind of have to watch very carefully and listen to what people are saying. I've been taking phone calls, and this is what's going on. And these people have been burned. Um,
You mean
where
like
the
sunburn or skin burn or something?
kind of, yeah, yes,
Well, worse?
or worse. We're talking possible radiation.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh. How long has this been going on? This is real recent.
This is really recent. This has been ramping up in the past, I would say 2 months.
Wow. See, we're not hearing about any of that on the news or media or anything.
Oh no, no, it's kept very quiet. And people are quietly, secretly calling, finding someone like myself
To
and a
help.
couple of others to help and who they feel are going to keep it quiet and protect their well-being.
Wow. I wasn't aware of that going on. We had scheduled to get together and talk today. The subject of our podcast is really about the abduction and how that whole thing has evolved over the last 30 or 40 years, which you know a lot about. And so maybe we could start out there and just you know going back in the day, when I haven't done a lot of abduction research recently, but 15, 20 years ago I did, and it was more where someone was taken and examined and that kind of thing. So could you maybe just give me an overview of how that was and what seems to be evolving now, if you will?
Yeah, it has changed, but way back when, in when I was taken myself, and then began to investigate and research. And what we found is that we were brought aboard a craft and taken in the beginning by either a tall gray, could be 5'4", 5 or taller, up to 6 feet, or a more robot type, smaller gray, and they would come and escort you to the craft. If you were taken by the taller gray, they seem to be able to have the ability of stopping pain and fear. Once you were aboard that craft, there was no fear. We don't remember, the majority of us, how we got back home. We just knew once we were at home that something had happened, and at times in broad daylight. We could recall being taken by something. What it was, didn't know. We had some fear, and we were examined aboard these craft.
But you were taken out of your home.
Out of your home, out of your car, or you got some kind of a message. It must have been telepathic at the time that you were to leave your home and go to a specific area. And
Okay,
there
that
you were
accounts for
met.
somebody getting in a
Mm,
car and driving to a remote location. Okay.
right.
And
Hmm.
something inspires them to do that. Okay. Yeah, I've heard
Yes.
of that. I've seen that before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's all right. So some in my instance, and also the Betty and Barney Hill case, they saw something. They saw a craft. All I saw was lights, and we were up in the mountains headed for our campsite in Colorado, going through a glacier valley called South Park. And I was watching these lights, and others have had the same type of thing happen in that same area, especially hikers who have called
Mhm.
me after reading my case. And they take you off into the high desert because there's really nothing there. One small town called Jefferson. We were missing 3 hours. We started out on one pass from Denver, ended up on the other, which was about 3 hours. We were going in daylight so we could meet my parents for dinner at the campsite, and ended up in the dark, parked on a place called Trout Creek Pass near the Collegiate Peaks. And our headlights were on, the engine was running, but we were pulled over to the side, didn't know how we got there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's kind of how it used to happen.
that's how it used to happen. You would have something spinning around in your head that said, something happened. I remember lights. I remember something odd happening to the car. Couldn't put it all together.
Now,
Um,
we know that you're a fully certified regression, for regression hypnosis. Is
yeah.
that how you find out what happens to people most of like if you regress them, can you seem to find out a lot more detail about what their experience was?
We like them to have some conscious memory of something odd, something different that we can with. We need to have a place to go. It's called forensic, non-suggestive hypnosis. So, in regressing, we can say, you saw these lights, this happened, that happened. You don't have any memory of the in between. Can we take a look at that? We have a date and perhaps a time, and it starts to bring some things together the majority of the time. Yes, it helps.
I see. I see. So when we were talking offline here before we started, you were saying how things have evolved. It's changed. You think it's changing a lot, the way people are being abducted now. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit about that?
Sure, we know that there have been what we call out-of-body experiences, and people wonder if that happens only during an emergency situation. They're in the hospital, they have a near death, they know they're not in their physical body any longer.
Mhm.
Well, this occurs while someone is in bed. They wake up and realize something is happening. They're trying to put it together. They feel strange. And all of a sudden, they can look back, see the body on the bed, and they know they're being taken through a wall, through a window, and out. and they have their experience in
So
and out
they're
of the
doing it, the
body.
body's still laying in the bed, but
Yes,
their consciousness is essentially going somewhere else.
correct. That's
Yeah, well,
correct.
we've done that kind of research at the Monroe Institute where they have classes they can teach people how to
Mhm.
basically go out of body, just the way you described
Yeah.
it. And so I'm, I mean, and you think that that's more the modern, the more modern way or the more current way that ETs do that. They'll do it that way.
I think that they do. In my situation, when I was taken, I had a particular tall gray that I had seen, I guess the last time, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago. I don't know exactly, but I knew him. I had an emotional connection with him because I knew he could protect me. And so I was never taken out of body for that. I think that for other people, um, it just started that way, began that way. That's how they were taken. Mine never segued into that out of the body situation.
Now, what I'm thinking about is, in the early days, people would be abducted, and a lot, particularly females, would have the symptoms of like miscarriages and things like that. Um, and so if they were taken physically and examined and maybe something's done with a fetus or something like that, but when they're taken out of body, what are they looking for there? What's happening to them there? They couldn't examine their body or anything.
No, I think it was more of a consciousness type connection where there was more telepathic discussions. I think that there's more of an ability to ask questions of these entities. And I think there's an awful lot more. We're researching that specifically now. And
So
there
you
are
think that
many books.
they're taking them somewhere to teach them or bring them up to speed in some
Yeah.
conscious. Okay.
Yes, yes. And there are very, very few reporting any possible, well, pregnancies, lost pregnancies. Those types of things are not happening so much
That
anymore.
used to be real common 20 years ago.
Yes, I experienced it. It was very frightening. But
Someone
at
is
this,
like 3 or 4 months pregnant and then they come
yes.
back from and the fetus is gone and they're feeling like they had a miscarriage or something like that.
And like they lost something
And
that
you don't know, it's
happened.
some kind of a biological experiment or something. We don't really know what they're up to, but we just know what they do or what we think they do.
Yeah, correct. And now, though, things have advanced so much, not only technologically, but what they can do is take skin samples, DNA samples, various types of things from us, and they can now copy those into whatever it is they want. Can they
Clone, they
grow
call it. Yeah.
grow a fetus on their own? They don't need us to carry them anymore. Yeah.
The other thing that we talked about too is what that people call my labs or meal labs or whatever. And when I was doing that research, people would, later on into it, people go, well, there were military guys in there on that ship. And I'm like, huh? And they're like, no, there were some military people there, the human military, what appeared to be military people on the ships. And so then, you kind of go down this road. They call them military abductions or whatever. And from what I understand is it's happened where there are ETs involved, non-humans involved, and military people. And then some people now are saying that some of these recon teams actually take people that have been abducted somewhere to examine them, where there's not so much ET involvement, but just military people. Do you have any help me figure that out?
Oh boy. That's something I would like to have some more answers to, but I can describe something for you.
Okay.
Um, and that was what I witnessed and others have witnessed are more of a reptilian that stands upright and they're wearing a military jacket. The majority of them are missing the collar insignia, so you can't tell who they belong to, if in fact it's our military. The one I saw, the jacket was a beige, like a Navy officer would be. Again, no insignia. And they communicated completely telepathically. I was taken out of my home. My husband was moved into another room, and then they must have decided to take him too. He has no memory of it. He has been hypnotized before, and he will only go so far, and then he doesn't want to know. But we were taken
Right.
out. Well, I'm in Florida, so it's a set of situations where the woods are called spring hammock, and the ground is very moist. There's a lot of spring water coming to the surface, and they have trails that you can take. They're built above that. So I was taken down there. My husband was with me. We were on some sort of device that stayed above the walkway. And behind
So
us,
you felt like this is a real place in the woods somewhere?
oh yeah, and I know that we had an old Air Force base. And where we went was through the jungle until we came to a big platform. It was all a part of this trail. But then this reptilian, very tall, came and escorted us into what I discovered was an old airplane hangar.
Mhm.
And it had vines growing through. It had been there so many years.
So it was abandoned and just
It
kind
was,
of okay.
mhm. It was abandoned. When we walked in, to my left was a row of tables. They had obviously the kind you fold and they set up. Went all the way down the length of this hangar. So we were seated near the doorway, near the entrance. I could look down and see other humans sitting at the far end. And out came another reptilian carrying kind of a clipboard type thing. Kept walking up and down and making statements, and I could see him hitting something on the clipboard, like a tool. I could see it light up when he hit it. I cannot remember what was said. I may explore that a little more later, but all of a sudden we heard a noise, a kind of a whooshing sound, and I looked up and I saw a giant craft. You could see bits and pieces of it above the hangar and this beam shot down on the floor, and out came human military men. And they walked up to the reptilian that was speaking to us. They had a conversation. They completed whatever they were doing with us and escorted us back out. And then we had to ride down that trail again.
To get back
Uh,
home. When we going back to the other thing where you think that there's a lot of these people are being taken out of body, do you think there's any prevailing messages that they're putting out to people? Some of the people I've been, interviewed have said that it was more they were concerned about the planet and pollution and nuclear proliferation and stuff like that. Do you think that they're trying to, there's some kind of a message they're trying to convey to people?
I do. I think it has to do with protecting the earth, that we're not taking care of it, have not for a very, very long time, perhaps forever. We just make it our giant playground. And one of these entities that I did hear said, this is our oasis also, and we need it to be protected. There's not another like it. We have everything we need, but if we take it in moderation, this can go on infinitum. But now it's too late, and we're in, they kept calling it the slip and showing me like the earth, but then there was like a half moon, and they said, now watch. And the earth slipped off to the side, and it was left with like a negative, um, for a photograph. You could see through it, and it was still operating, but it was very different.
Wow. Um, so are you, I know you're pretty active with opens too. Do you
I
think that
am.
the incidences, for a while it seemed like that the abduction just quit. I just kind of lost track of it because I wasn't hearing about that much of it anymore. And I asked Les the other day, and we're still getting cases coming in. People are still calling, and it's currently happening.
Yes, yes.
More the physical abduction or more the out of body one?
A combination, but they aren't actually being taken to the craft physically now. They are called contactees and they're visited by the ETs and shown
Okay.
or told something, but while here, they remain here.
So it's kind of like a visitation. Somebody comes to visit you and
Yes, yeah, they let you know. People do have a warning if they pay attention, because I've checked with enough individuals who have these visits. About 24 to 48 hours ahead of time, they develop like a tinnitus, a ringing in the ears, and another little sound with it. And some of them can say, uh-oh, I'm going to be visited.
so prior to being visited, they get some kind of um, a preemptive warning the day before. So
They do, yes. I can say that that happened or occurred back when, 20, 30 years ago, but not not quite as much. Now it's along with this out of the body thing, and then they've got this sound like, well, here we go, and they can't prevent that from happening.
well, some of the people used to say when they were being abducted back in the day, you'd hear this humming noise or feel this humming vibration
Yeah,
sound before as it was starting to happen,
right.
which I think is probably where they might be being pulled into another dimension or something like that.
That's what it feels like. You're somewhere that you don't recognize. Um, it's what'd you call it? Spacey. You're somewhere you can't figure it out. Doesn't feel like the Earth. The atmosphere, the vibration, everything to go with it is not the same.
And these, the incidents, some of the people like I've talked to Les Velez at Opus and even John Blitch, and people are saying that when I say how many people you think have been abducted, and they're saying that it might be as much as 1% of the entire population.
Hmm.
That's a
I would,
lot of people,
that's a lot of people, and I would agree.
whether they're being taken or whether they're being visited, but they're clearly having contact with some form of non-human intelligence that's, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And more are turning up with statements like, I feel like I've been given an assignment. I'm going to have something to do. And if you ask them what, they can't figure it out. They just know there's going to be some sort of big change. They're going to be a part of that aftermath. And what that is, they want to know, and they're not being told.
Yeah, and you get the guy that's like a janitor or driving a backhoe, and now all of a sudden he's got all these um, electronics diagrams and quantum physics formulas in his head, and that he didn't learn in high school 25 years ago. So
Yeah, absolutely. They wouldn't have known, and they can tell you what they've been told. They can describe, they can draw pictures, but they have no idea what it means.
right, they just see it, and the symbols are the same thing. There's apparently
Yes.
some research on the different types of symbols.
Oh my gosh, yes. Different types. We've begun to keep documentation of those variety. Now they are pretty much a matter of dashes and dots and angles. And they're just put together differently to make up what we call a sentence.
Well,
Um,
some of these craft that they have, it looks like hieroglyphics and such stuff on them, the markings.
yes, it looks like hieroglyphics, the same type of thing that you would see at pyramids. And strangely enough, when you look at those markings on the pyramids and you see what looks like an astronaut, um, a,
Yeah.
a, a craft, okay, I have discovered from someone that visits there quite often, they've got a relative there, that the tour guides are no longer allowed to bring that up to the tourists.
Well, there's a whole bunch of research that's hit the internet the last week or so about these underground huge facilities underneath the pyramids in Giza and all that. And I remember 25 years ago, there were some researchers that basically said that. I don't know what sort of methodology they were using to determine it, but they were saying there's like a city underneath the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. And then all of a sudden, zap, it was gone. It disappeared off
It's
it,
gone.
not a trace of it anywhere. And then now these researchers are saying that by various uses of satellite technology and ground penetrating,
Yes.
that there's something way really underneath there that's sort of tells you that what we think in terms of history is probably crap, that these things have been around for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. And someone that's been studying that can tell that there are very, very tall, I don't remember how high, columns, 8 of them
Yeah,
with the coils.
yeah, and they're like they go down 2 miles into the ground. Yeah.
They go 2 miles. Well, now they've found the same type of thing in the ocean in a couple of places and a couple of on land areas other than Egypt.
Yep, that
So,
wouldn't
yeah.
surprise me.
Yeah.
I would think the same thing's going to they're going to find the same thing over in, like in the Mayan pyramids and all that. I'm sure it's the
Mm.
same.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we talked about that you had on your list of things you could is you and Kathy have done some pretty serious research as far as there's ways you can if you feel like you're being abducted or they're trying to abduct you, there's ways that you can take precautions to prevent that. And I wanted you to tell me about that.
Well, it was discovered by myself and a few others who were being taken, but only by a certain type of entity, and that is the reptilian. And there are many different types of reptilian, but this is the same for each and every one of those. We don't seem to want to have our ETs that are grays go away from us. But basically, if you said to them, I don't want to be taken right now, they probably would not. But the reptilians show up. They will come through your closet doors, the walls, down through the ceiling. And if you look at them, you're lost. They're going to take you. So you have to not look into their eyes, not
So
even for
it's
a second.
if they get, in other words, if you look in their eyes, they can somehow hypnotize you and get control of you. That's how they
Yes,
do it. So
that's
if you
number.
look at their feet or something like that, don't look at them
Yeah,
in the
that's
eye.
number one. Number two is those particular entities cannot stand LED lighting of any kind. So I've advised people to have LED flashlights. Just go buy 3 or 4, keep one on your nightstand if you're taking at night, under your pillow, next to you where it can be real tiny, one of the little bitty ones. And if you see that
Or else
entering
like a
your
night light
room,
that's LED that, yeah.
uh-huh, shine that, lift it right up, shine it right into their eyes. And they just kind of fade back where they came from and they're gone and they won't come back, at least not that night. They may try a couple of other times, but then it seems like they give up. But they look like they're in pain. When you shine that up, they're not squinting, but it's almost an expression of pain, not fear, just pain, and they go away.
And two, if they're coming through the wall, they've raised their frequency and become less dense. So that
Yeah,
LED might have something to do with messing that up too,
yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, you told me
very.
that years ago that LED lights were like that, but
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, I think you and I discussed it way back when it was first mentioned.
long time
And
ago. Yeah,
a
yeah.
long time ago, and people forget or they're made to forget, and they try again, and they're taken and they have forgotten. Keep that light right next to you, and all you have plenty of time to grab it and shine it.
Well, and then there's a couple of these guys that have done research where they make hats out of material. It's called
Yeah,
um, oh man, I'm having a brain fade. What's the name of that material?
I can't remember.
It's Velostat. Velostat.
Belliston.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And
Yes.
they claim that they put several layers of that in a hat, and it stops the uh,
Yeah.
telepathic. Apparently, the telepathic control they get, whatever. But
Yeah.
there was enough research. I haven't had a chance to track him down, but I watched one of his videos, and he said he's got over 100 people they've used as hats on that where that it stopped their abductions.
Yeah, I've watched also. And one of the things that these reptilians do that try to attract us, get our attention, is to use some of our own um, body symbols, signals, and they'll go up towards their eyes and they'll go like this. And you see that motion because they go back and forth, and you're going to connect with those great big eyes at some point if you pay attention to that finger saying, "Come on, follow me."
So is that it? The eye contact, the lights? Is there anything else you could think of?
I think that if you said too much, in a very loud voice, if you started to yell, and also some of them, because I don't believe they're spiritual, not these particular entities, and they're causing fear and discomfort and they don't care. Um, that if you yelled, and especially something biblical, doesn't matter if that's your faith or not, it seems to chase them away. They don't like it.
Interesting. Because I know that some of these people that have been involved in these encounters recently, they're trying to run away and they said their legs get paralyzed. I've been hearing that a few times. The Tedesco's already
Yeah.
experienced that.
Yes.
They were trying to run away because they see the thing closing in on them, and then both of them went down there. They couldn't, their legs wouldn't, they couldn't walk for couple minutes.
And yeah, now I'm wondering, since you've reminded me of some of those, I had an older gentleman who was taken, and his wife also, and they were the reptilians, and they used a cattle prod type situation when they tried to escape the craft. They would prod arms, back of their arms, and their legs, and then they would become paralyzed. They couldn't make their legs work.
Well, this has been really fun, but I'm still spinning about what we first talked about with all the
Yeah.
stuff that's going on in Florida. So you th you think that there's still a lot of drone activity and that these people are having encounters? Is there are you hearing about any airports being closed or anything like that?
Oh boy, you know something? You are right there. One of the airports was closed briefly. I cannot remember which one, but there was something buzzing it, and it was one of the car-sized drones. It kept dipping down and coming right over the landing strip. And of course, the one where they took off from, the whole thing had to be shut down, not for very long. It was only like a 10 or 15-minute matter, but they went to chase it and it disappeared so quickly.
Most of these occurrences in Florida, they happen at night or
They've been at night.
are they out over
Mhm.
the water or inland?
Most of these are inland and over people's homes, and they're huge. So, they're fearful. This is my property. Here's
When
this
you say huge, how big?
the size of, what did one individual say? It was like a small delivery truck,
Minivan or something like that.
minivan. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
and
what people are saying. Yeah.
yeah, and rectangle. And then they'll stop and change shape, and a series of lights will appear.
Well, you remember Joe DiEduardo from our team.
I
We
do.
interviewed him a couple of weeks ago, and he was in New Jersey. And him and his buddy hiked into this area where they knew that these drones were. This was back around Christmas time.
Uh-huh.
And that's what he said is that he identified it. He described it as like the size of a minivan, and it was shaped.
Yeah.
It was a elongated rectangle. It was shaped like a shoebox.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what these are.
Yep, and
Yeah.
it was about the size of a minivan. He had one of the he had one of these. He had one of these meters. If I can get it to where it'll show up on the camera, that the tri-field meters.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
He has, I think it's this exact one, and he said that that thing, when that thing got close to him, that meter just pegged, it started screaming,
Yeah.
and
Um,
he didn't have. He said that it was there were three of them, and they all were in kind of a formation where if one of them turned, they all turned the same. They were like they were synchronized, so that all three of them, if they were flying along and they turned, they would all turn the same, rotate the same way. And the
Mm-hmm.
one of them got within about 70 yards of him.
Uh,
It was at treetop level, so that would be like standing on a football field and it would be somewhere over the goalpost at the other end. That's how close it was. And he said when it got that close, it set that meter off, and it also he could feel a tingling on his face.
oh,
And
yeah.
and then he said like he had a light sunburn the next day from it.
Boy, that sounds awful lot like a radiation burn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, actually, it's microwave, I think.
Oh, microwave.
Yeah,
Okay.
if it
Okay.
was there's I'm working on a podcast right now about the different types of meter readings. Um, and you have the magnetic field. If you set this meter
Yes.
on the mag scale, the MG reading is the one that is probably the most dangerous to skin tissue, and anything over like 5 mgs is considered to be dangerous.
And
Um,
anybody like you carry yours, you should have those on you all the time
yeah,
because
yeah.
uh, Kathy and I had an experience here when we were traveling from, oh gosh, near where she lives. And let's see, we were going to Tampa to a meeting we wanted to attend and hear the speaker. And we took her dad with us. He was in the back seat. And we were fine going, but I dropped my car off between my house and hers, and then she picked me up,
Is this
took off.
recently or a long time ago?
This is how we discovered how these meters can react to the human body that's possibly been taken or near a craft. It's been a few years. And we went to the meeting. We were headed home. And at one point, her navigation thing on her car, it just went crazy. It wasn't working. So she
Yep.
pulled off and we looked and she managed to get it back where it was supposed to. But right as that was going to occur, we felt like the car was going uphill, like the nose was pointed up. And, Florida's flat. So
Yeah.
we were not on any hill. We got back to where my car was. I wear an insulin pump. And I had, all the electronics on my car, and I wanted to call my husband and tell him traffic was terrible. It was some sort of holiday, and then I was going to be late, not to worry. My phone it was done. I couldn't make it work at all. So I borrowed Kathy's, called my husband. She was waiting for me to get into my car. My mirrors would not adjust, and they're electronic. My radio would not work.
Did the
And
car
that's
start?
it did. The car started, but I had to be careful and make sure I had headlights going, all of that. So
Yeah,
I headed home and I thought, okay, I am going to take a shortcut. I don't know what made me do that, but
I
I
do.
took the side road and ended up where the old Navy base used to be, where I worked. And there's nothing there but a couple of small lakes, and at the time, a brand new subdivision. Well, I found myself driving down in a horseshoe-shaped driveway that dipped way down so you were at the base of it. You could not see the cars on the road. At the top of it, they couldn't see you. And I looked and there was an ET peeking at me out from behind a tree. Then I remembered nothing until I got home. I was, an hour and a half longer than I should have been to get
But
home.
something compelled you to not go the normal way and take
Right.
a shortcut, if you will. Yeah, right.
So I called Kathy. I said, this happened. She said, can you come back here tomorrow and bring your car? So I did. Instead of taking my husband's car, I took that one. We started to test it, get base readings, and the needle was spiking on
The
that
car had a magnetic field on it.
instrument. Yeah. So then she took the unit inside. It was mine because she hadn't gotten one yet. Whoa, goodness. I don't even know what that was.
All right, I didn't hear it.
Okay, good. So we went inside and put the unit on the table. I could not get within 10 feet of it. As a human, I set that thing off all the way. The needle spiked
Was
all the
it a
way to the
magnetic
end.
reading or a radiate magnetic? Yeah.
Uh, she may have turned it to all,
Well,
and I don't.
there's two type of meters. One of them picks up nuclear radiation,
Right,
and the
that
other
did
one
not.
picks up the tri-field meter picks up
Yes.
all the different magnetic fields.
Okay, that's what it
So
was.
if I understand what you're saying after this experience, you had a magnetic field on you. That's
I
why.
did.
Yeah, I'm
And it
not heard of that
lasted
before. That's interesting.
e- it lasted 2 weeks. I set
And
that
then the
thing
car had a
off,
magnetic field too.
had one too. And so then we called her husband in, tested him. She tested herself. And if I remember, she set it off to some degree also because that odd thing had happened in her car at the same time. So then we started testing others. And I brought the unit home, tested my husband, my daughter, my next door neighbor. I asked her if she would be willing. Nothing. The needle didn't move. I could not get near it for 2 weeks.
So what we're understanding here is that if you've had an experience like that, see, we did a case in Port Jarvis, New York, and the car had a really strong field on it. But
Oh,
we never thought to test the person. We didn't test
we
them.
we had never done that either, and now we've discovered that anybody that's been on a craft can have that happen, and it will spike all the way to the end.
Wow.
Yeah.
So see, what we've recommended is there's a couple of, I'm working on a podcast right now. It's called the Six Readings You Can Take in the Field.
Uh,
And of course, one of them is your watch, and you
yeah.
basically have your watch and you have another watch at home that's synchronized.
Hmm.
If you come back from somewhere and the times aren't the same, then you know something might have happened to you. The other one is the compass, because
Hmm.
we use, as you well know, that if someone is in the middle of some type of a paranormal event or the presence of a UAP, compass needle just starts spinning.
Hmm.
But you can also use a compass the same way you use that meter is to detect magnetic fields. For example, if you go step away from the car and take a reading, the needle points north. And when you go over
Hmm.
next to the car, if there's a field, the needle will point to the car.
Uh-huh.
And then you go
Yeah.
around the car and say in the front of the car, the needle points. And then when you get to the back of the car, it starts pointing north again. The field is in the front, but you can use that to do it. But the two things that we know, and part of it I think has to do with some of the research they've done on the ranch, was when you have an event, a UAP event, or even a paranormal event at times, there's um, there's a spike in uh, gamma radiation, and there's also a spike
Hmm.
in the magnetic field, in the MG field. So when I say a spike, it's not like there's real, gamma radiation where it's going to fry you, but sometime as that event is unfolding, you'll see a up and down real quick. You'll get a spike. Like if you're doing a night watch or some kind of an event like what you're talking about, somebody's got something around their house.
Hmm.
It's almost like a preemptive warning that if you have what we suggest is, I have, we recommend these little radiation detectors. They're like the size of a pack of cigarettes,
Right.
and they're real accurate, and they've got
Yeah.
alarm. And so you can set the alarm at the safe radiation level and just put it in your pocket. Well, if that thing starts beeping, you just got a hit on something. You see what I'm saying? Not to
Yes.
mention, it's
Mhm.
also the reading to establish the proximity of a craft, but it's also a safety thing for you. If that thing starts to beep, you need to get back in your car and get away from it. And
Hmm.
then the same thing with the magnetic readings, the tri-field. These are the kind of tried and true tri-field meters. There's a couple of newer ones out that are all digital, and they've got alarms in them too. And so basically, if you've got your radiation meter and your magnetic field meter, and the alarms are set on them, and you'll when the alarms start going off, you know something's happening. That's the two big things. You get a spike in magnetic fields, and you get a spike in gamma radiation. It's like it's turned on and turned back off again. It's not
Yes.
where it's long enough to burn you, but it's an interesting concept. It's a different, interesting warning. I'll send you the video. I'm almost done with. I'll send it to you. You can check it out.
Oh, yeah, I'd
Yeah.
like to take a look at that.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time. This was fun. And we'll probably do it again. I'm sitting here thinking maybe we should do one on just what's going on in Florida because it sounds like there's a lot going on there.
Uh-huh. There's quite a
Um,
bit.
yeah, but I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me as usual. And we talk a lot about stuff, equipment and techniques. And
Yes.
you did give me something to think about with the person actually having a magnetic field around them afterwards, which is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't think flesh and blood would have them, usually things that have magnetic fields are metallic.
Yeah, true.
So,
We've not been able to figure that out. That and the tunnels and where are they and how far do they go and the earth sounds, supposedly now I hear that those are those tunnels venting. Those weird sounds all over the world that people hear. They said a
well,
lot of,
when we did the podcast years ago, that was one of the most interesting things is the underground bases and the tunnel. People
yeah.
really, there's quite a fascination about that. And there's
Oh
quite a
yeah.
lot of information about that, that some of it's come out.
Right.
In Charlottesville, there's some of those places around here
Ah,
that
yeah.
they're government, but they're, facilities. But
Uh-huh.
that's the subject for a whole nother show to talk about those. We might be able
Yes.
to do that too.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for being on, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you for sure. Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Please check out our website at AEROPS.site. You'll be able to find current posts, new information, and a list of advisory board members. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.